many are bald if you have to wear those things?
To all of us.
I'm bald. You bald?
Oh, we're all bald.
Don't tell anyone, please.
I'm deaf and dumb, too.
Live television is supposed to be controlled, professional, and predictable, but sometimes an interviewer gets a little too arrogant, crosses a line, and the only thing standing between them and absolute humiliation is the rock star sitting across the table. These are 10 times legendary musicians absolutely destroy disrespectful interviewers in the most savage ways possible. Story 1. The Beatles.
Help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please?
In February 1964, the Beatles arrived in America for the very first time, and the mainstream media did not take them seriously at all. During their first major press conference at JFK Airport, reporters treated them like a temporary gimmick rather than actual musicians.
Does all that hair help you sing?
What?
Does all that hair help you sing?
Definitely, yeah.
You feel like Samson, if you lost your hair, you'd lose what you have? It?
I don't know.
One journalist asked how many of them were bald, suggesting the haircuts were wigs. The band turned it into an ensemble demolition. Ringo answered first, Paul joined in, and John added that he was deaf and dumb too.
There's a question here. How many are bald if you have to wear those things?
To all of us.
I'm bald. You bald?
Oh, we're all bald.
Don't tell anyone, please.
I'm deaf and dumb, too.
This is gentleman marriage.
We're only a
Quiet, please. Quiet, please.
In seconds, a room full of seasoned American reporters had been made to look completely foolish by 4 young men from Liverpool who had barely stepped off the plane. Lennon and his bandmates used coordinated sarcasm to instantly shift the power dynamic, proving the band was much sharper than the media anticipated.
Did you want to get a haircut at all?
No.
I had one yesterday.
Story 2. Liam Gallagher. In the mid-1990s, Oasis were the biggest rock band on the planet, and frontman Liam Gallagher was notorious for his absolute refusal to tolerate disrespect. He made it clear in dozens of documented interviews that he had zero patience for questions that diminished the band's status. When interviewers tried to draw comparisons suggesting Oasis were merely riding a wave of Beatles nostalgia, Liam never deflected.
On a baking program. But then I ended up supporting.
He would lean forward, fix the interviewer with that famous unblinking stare, and ask point blank what exactly they had accomplished in their life. The silence that followed was always louder than anything the interviewer had prepared. Few rock stars have managed to make a question feel more like a verdict.
Well, after the year we've had, it's like it's time to reflect in it and sort of go, you know, I never really had any problem with anyone anyway, really. You know?
Story 3. The Freddie Mercury. Freddie Mercury gave countless interviews during Queen's peak years in Munich in 1984, and across all of them, he displayed the same quality that made him terrifying in conversation.
How does it feel at the end of a day like that? Do you like your job in an evening like that?
I love my job, but I hate talking to people like you.
He was never rattled. When interviewers pushed into personal territory or tried to suggest that Queen's best work was behind them, Freddie didn't reach for anger. He reached for amusement.
Have you done any interviews in the past few years?
Because I hate them.
Why?
I just hate them. I hate talking to people I don't really know. I don't talk to
the show. Do you think it's more than a coincidence that sentiments like "we've got to build this world together" should come just when rock is showing politicians where they've actually failed?
Oh, darling, what kind of shit question is that you answering?
His most famous Munich line from that era was delivered with the lightness of someone who genuinely couldn't believe the conversation was happening.
Has been the leader of the band. It's
I'm
difficult.
not the leader of the band, by the way.
No?
Yeah, everybody calls me the leader of the band.
When a reporter suggested his life was full of contradictions, Freddie looked at him and said simply, "Darling, I am a contradiction." The sheer confidence radiating off him consistently silenced whatever the reporter had planned next. Story 4. Corey Taylor. In the early 2000s, Slipknot were taking over the world, but many mainstream critics still refused to respect them. During backstage interviews, condescending music journalists repeatedly treated the nine-piece band like a circus act, fixating on the masks rather than the music. Corey Taylor addressed this head-on in every documented encounter.
How did the mask idea came? How did all...
Really, that old question? Come on.
Yeah, sorry. It's amazing. Okay, thank you very much. Are you going to watch Metallica?
I'm going to go eat some Brazilian barbecue.
He walked through the time signatures, the physical demands of a live show with 9 performers in full costume under stage lights, and the compositional layering behind songs that critics had never actually listened to.
Who would win in a fight, you or Ronald McDonald?
You know, man, I don't know what to talk to you about, to be honest.
You don't think we have anything in common?
I'm pretty sure we don't have anything in common.
If there was a heavy metal song about me, what would it be called?
Jackass.
What's that?
Jackass.
Jackass would be my song. Let me hear a couple lyrics.
You're a jackass.
That's a hit, dude.
The effect was the same every time. The journalist asking the question came in expecting easy provocation and left looking significantly less confident than when they arrived. Story 5. Marilyn Manson. In the aftermath of the Columbine High School massacre in 1999, the mainstream media searched for something to blame, and Marilyn Manson's music was one of their primary targets. Manson was asked about this at length over the following years, and he handled every encounter with the same devastating composure. The most famous moment came when filmmaker Michael Moore, working on his documentary Bowling for Columbine, asked Manson directly what he would say to the kids of Columbine if he had the chance.
If you were to talk directly to the kids at Columbine or the people in that community, what would you say to them if they were here right now?
I wouldn't say a single word to them. I would listen to what they have to say, and that's what no one did.
Manson paused, then delivered one of the most quietly devastating responses in modern media history. He said he wouldn't say a single word to them. He would listen to what they had to say, and that, he said calmly, was what nobody did. The clip has been watched millions of times because it made everyone who had been shouting at him look suddenly small. Before we continue, which of these shutdowns hit hardest for you? Drop a comment and let us know where you are watching from. Story 6. Henry Rollins. In the 1990s, punk icon Henry Rollins was subjected to interviews by hosts who clearly had no idea who they were dealing with. Rollins has talked about these encounters across his spoken word performances, describing the specific frustration of sitting across from someone who is visibly going through the motions, asking questions from a clipboard without any genuine curiosity.
Read that Maximum Rock and Roll. I don't read that Flip Side. I don't watch that TV set.
You ever get the feeling that LA is dead?
Not deader than any other place.
That's
Not
true.
Not deader than some people's minds.
Rollins never raised his voice in those situations. What he did instead was stop performing for the interviewer entirely.
How will your diary of today look like?
We came and played our guts out, and then I had to do this interview when I should have been able to be left alone so I could breathe hard.
I'm sorry for that.
That's okay.
Okay. We'll see you later on then.
He would respond to lazy questions with exactly as much energy as they deserved. None. The stillness coming off a man built like Rollins, staring at someone who had just asked him something insulting, communicated everything that needed to be said without a single raised word. Story 7. Kurt Cobain. At the absolute height of Nirvana's commercial fame in 1991 and 1992, Kurt Cobain faced constant questions about selling out. He addressed it directly in multiple documented interviews, particularly in Rolling Stone, where he acknowledged the tension between reaching a massive audience and maintaining punk credibility.
That's okay, 'cause so are you. Look obvious, something more.
He told one interviewer he did not blame the average 17-year-old punk rock kid for calling him a sellout. He said he understood the argument. That willingness to look his critics dead in the eye and acknowledge their point without flinching disarmed every interview that tried to corner him. He refused to get defensive about a contradiction he had already thought through more carefully than anyone asking the question. Story 8. John Lydon. On June 26, 1980, John Lydon appeared on The Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder. By that point, the Sex Pistols had already broken up 2 years earlier, and Lydon was performing with his new band, Public Image Limited. Snyder was an old-school broadcaster who made little effort to understand what he was dealing with.
Why do you dislike rock and roll so much?
It's dead, it's a disease, it's a plague, it's been going on for too long, it's history, it's vile. It's not achieving anything, it's just digression. They play rock and roll at airports. That's about as advanced as it can possibly get.
Lydon and his bandmates dismantled the interview from the inside, answering questions with questions, redirecting every attempt at a narrative into something Snyder couldn't follow. Snyder later called it one of the worst moments in the history of his show.
What made you change?
No, I've always felt this way.
Even when you were with the Sex Pistols?
I wondered when you'd get round to that one. Yes, even then. Because the Sex Pistols was going to be the absolute end of rock and roll, which I thought it was. Unfortunately, the majority of the public, being the senile animals that they are, got that wrong.
At the end, he apologized to the audience on camera, acknowledging that things had gotten lost in translation. Lydon had not lost his temper once. Story 9. Bob Dylan. In 1965, during his first major UK tour, Bob Dylan sat for an interview with Horace Freeland Judson, the London correspondent for Time magazine. The conversation was filmed by D.A. Pennebaker and appears in the documentary Don't Look Back. Judson asked leading questions designed to produce a quotable definition of Dylan's message. Dylan refused to cooperate. He told Judson that Time had never printed the truth and that they had too much to lose to start now.
Then you'll ever know about me, ever. I mean, I could tell you, I'm not a folk singer and explain to you why, but you wouldn't really understand. And I've never been in Time magazine. I don't need Time magazine. And I don't think I'm a folk singer. You'll probably call me a folk singer, but the other people know better.
He walked through the interviewer's entire premise, dismantling the assumption that Dylan owed anyone a simple explanation of what his songs meant.
I mean, those a certain class of people. It's a class of people that take the magazine seriously. I mean, sure, I could read it, and I read it on the airplanes, but I don't take it seriously. If I want to find out anything, I'm not going to read Time magazine. I'm not going to read Newsweek. I'm not going to read any of these magazines. I mean, because they just got too much to lose by printing the truth. You know that.
Judson later said he suspected Dylan was partly performing for the camera. That suspicion only proved Dylan's point. Story 10. Lou Reed.
Came from Miami, Philly, hitchhiked away across the USA.
In 1974, Lou Reed arrived at Sydney Airport in Australia for a press conference, and the local journalists had clearly not done their homework. One reporter asked a combined question about whether Reed was a transvestite or a homosexual.
Well, could I put it bluntly, and pardon the question, are you a transvestite or a homosexual?
Sometimes.
Which one?
I don't know. What's the difference?
Reed stared straight through him and said no. The reporter then asked why he wore makeup. Reed said because he liked it.
Life's so boring for you, then?
No.
What do you like most in life?
Everything.
Is there any things you like better than others?
No.
Every follow-up question received the same treatment, a short, complete answer that left absolutely no room for the interviewer to build a narrative. The reporters kept trying to rattle him and kept failing. By the end, they had no more questions and nothing usable. It was one of the most efficient press conference dismantlings ever caught on camera, and the footage has been shared online for decades as a masterclass in contempt delivered with perfect stillness.